So, 4 shots for 4 men. And the 5th was just to finish someone off. And they prepare in the heavy rain for an oncoming ambush. And the 2 wingmen don't much like Teasel's plan to cut off Rambo at the pass, but now it's do or die. So they, join in and excited Teasel, in pursuit. So it starts to hail, and Teasel takes cover as he's, smarted across the face by a small chunk of ice. And once again, I can hear that brilliant Jerry Goldsmith score, like bum 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 ba da 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 da, kind of riveting, And what an awesome theatrical scene it would make, like black screen, hearing the howl of the wind and rain and hail knocking against the trees and lit up forest, only by the lightning, like the posse walking through it, and you get snaps of lightning and you could see them through the lightning, and it would be radical indeed. And anyway, it seems Teasel lost his shirt when he was trying to, tend to Orville, I think tourniquets or whatever. I'm pretty sure it's tourniquets. And he's bareback, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's bareback. And they fear that the noise they make rushing will attract Rambo, so they, slow down, but it doesn't really help, so they end up speeding back up. And but it's, too late, because, as we can see it, the sound tipped off Rambo and gave away their position. So Shingleton's teasing Mitch and Ward move on, and Ward's walking. Ward's hit in the chest, and he's flat out on the ground, like he gets shot in the chest. And Mitch falls into the mud, and staying low, they play dead, play possum a bit, and Teasel tries to succumb. A tightened up, freaked out of the moment Shingleton, who comes to, really viciously and almost punches Teasel in the face, screaming like, "Keep your fucking hands off me." So they're like all huddled together, and they can be seen kind of like occasionally through lightning flashes, so they're like looking around through the lightning flashes trying to find out where Rambo is. And with Ward's death, Rambo's kill count chimes to 18. So Teasel orders Shingleton to stay with Mitch as he splits off to push Rambo out into the open, and saying, if someone comes through here, not saying that it's him, to shoot that person to hell. So Teasel crawls off through the sucking mud, constantly checking his pistol barrel to make sure it's not clogged, and on his mind that no other innocents should be killed for his mistakes. And he almost shoots a squirrel that moves off in the distance, and everyone's pretty much shaken. And says there's like a lot of hot pressure on his anus in the scene, like his instincts are taking over, like he's crawling through and he's like through sickness throughout the forest all about. He's like crawling everywhere and thinking back to Korea, and like the icy water from the trees and from the storm that seems to be letting up a bit across his bare back, and scratching himself on branches, and like dragging the mud and mud inside his pants, because like he's like dragging himself, like his belt buckle sucks in mud into his pants. And he's just going for it, really quietly trying to hunting for Rambo in the dark. Like pretty much we can see the instincts taking over. Like he feels like the adrenaline in his stomach. His nerves are going crazy, and he's just like at all senses, like he's back in the war now too. So after a few hours of crawling around in the dark, he's he slowly decides to crawl back to the men, constantly thinking of ways Rambo could shoot him dead along the way, thinking, at any moment that a bullet's gonna hit his naked back and exploding from Rambo's rifle, and his insides are gonna start spewing out underneath him. So he's daydreaming of, peering down at his innards mixed within the rain and mud and moss and grass, and occasionally snapping in and out of it, And then, once again moving on, crawling paranoid and half dead, He's half blind for hours, He's triple checking everywhere for Rambo. Sort of moving it and inchworming it, along the floor of the woods, back to the rendezvous point, bare-chested, remembering Korea, and finally gets to the area. So he gets there, and he starts signaling for Mitch and Shingleton and calling out, etc. But no one responds, So for a minute he thinks he could be in the wrong place, but then he corrects himself and assures him that he is indeed where he needs to be. This is the place. So he calls out again, rather hoarsely whispering, not to attract, Rambo, who might be nearby. His voice cracking because he can hardly even talk. Fear, and there's no reply. So Teasel slowly moves in to investigate, never taking his attention off the woods around them. And he comes across Mitch, whose throat's been cut from ear to ear, and Shingleton's missing. And so Teasel continues onward silently, and all of a sudden, to his right, Shingleton calls out to him, "Look out, Will, he's got me." And then a rifle shot blasts out, and Teasel breaks, running through the woods to the cliff. He's totally fucking freaked out. He's like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out of here." So then, Rambo shoots Teasel but misses, and then ought to be dead, shot in the skull, Shingleton leaps forth and attacks Rambo. And there's a nice minute where Rambo admires Shingleton's courage while he's got him on the ground. And I presume they're thinking back to their exchange in the holding cell where Shingleton's like, "I'm reasonable. I don't know what you did, but whatever. You could come with me, or I could carry you." So I guess he's kind of thinking about that. So he's admiring Shingleton's courage. Then he just shoots him right through the eye. The guy's brains just explode out the back of his head, all through the dark grass, and it's pretty graphic. And then Rambo stands up and focuses his attention directly on Teasel, who's running off, trying to get to the cliff, and Rambo goes after him, and now the chase is completely turned around, 100%. It's just one-on-one. Teasel's the only one remaining, and the kill count, Rambo's kill count, reaches 20 kills. And the next bit is just, utterly terrifying. Because now we're dealing with, what Rambo was trained to do, and the elements. He's in the elements now, so it's like, whew. I shudder to think at that, taking a man's freedom and everything he's went through to come back home, and then you guys, just try to short him and bewilder him and reduce the man to nothing. And after everything, now he's completely lost everything, and now he's going to be on the run forever, so they pretty much took everything from him. And it makes, all the next part so much more terrifying. Because now Rambo's got nothing to lose. And, like he says, killing's as easy as breathing when you're pushed. Pushed, sorry. So, yeah. And as Richard Crenna would say, in Rambo 2, like, if dying means winning a war, he'll gladly do it. No fear, no regrets. And know what you call hell, he calls home. And it just makes the next scene so much more intense to think of it that way. Like, yeah. Anyway. So, I couldn't help but wonder what Teasel must be thinking. Because, he could have been with the men when they got taken out. Maybe he would have died faster, or whatever. Maybe he wouldn't. Yeah, maybe he wouldn't have made it. But to that point. But it still makes me pretty curious. Because right before he leaves Shingleton to crawl off into the woods to try to flush Rambo out, he tells he's telling him a story, and he's saying, I'm not, a better fighter than this kid, but, I'm a better organizer, and he tells him a story about his little night patrols in Korea, and Teasel tells a lot of stories in this book. Like, every, couple of chapters, there's a Teasel story. He's always proud to tell those stories to people, and, he's quite the storyteller. And at this point, it's a battle of wits, and it's fought against the other person's thought all the time, and Shingleton doesn't want him to go, and if he does go, he wants to come with him, because Teasel's determined to end this thing right here in the woods, like right at this point. So, but Teasel wants him to stay with Mitch, and because Mitch is like, we can tell Mitch is just gone at that point, Mitch's not going to make it, so, as, you just heard. But, yeah, it just gets to me, It just gets to me. Shingleton wanted to, do another plan, and in the end it didn't turn out. So, back to the story.